Good evening, everybody. Welcome to season 3, episode 1 of BandTalk. Tonight, I am super honored to have Erin Keeton-Howard and Adrian Sims here tonight. And I appreciate their time and their efforts to prepare for this and do this. And we're going to kick off with our first question. When did you guys start composing, and did you have a mentor or did you just start creating on your own?
Adrian, you take this one.
Okay, cool. I'll start. Um, so I began in I really began writing in like sixth grade. It was really early. I think I was just curious how it happened. There wasn't like a decisive moment of I want to write. It was just like I'm curious, how are people getting this stuff on the page? And so I looked different things up. I eventually wound up finding MuseScore and downloading that and starting to work from there. And I would just write things that I heard. I would write things that we were even playing in band, just see how to get them on the page. And then later on, the next year, I wrote a piece in my middle school band. We played it. So the sixth grade band played that piece. That was really fun to hear, and just kept writing. And then passing. I don't remember how much we passed stuff out to the band after that, but just kept writing, and then we would look at it, and I would write more, and hope, and ideally the pieces got a little bit better every time until I got to before college, and that's when I met Brian Balmages. And my mentors were middle and high school band directors were really helpful in getting me to the point where I was ready for that type of mentorship. But working with Brian was fantastic, and I still work with him. We just finished up a recording session in Indianapolis last week, so still a big mentor for me there. But up until that point, it was largely just me writing things down and getting used to the way that notation worked, and getting used to hearing my ideas played back either by real bands or by MIDI. So there's starting my journey.
Awesome. Erin, how about you?
I started, I've always been really curious about the way music makes me feel. And so my earliest, I think, composing memories are being a kid sitting at the piano and tinkering. And I never wrote any of it down, but I was really curious how different combinations of things made you feel. And so my career path has been teaching. This is my 15th year being a band director. And it was in 2020 that I formally wrote down my ideas for the first time. During the pandemic, I had some extra time and I was a little bit grumpy, not being able to go out and make music and be with my students. And so I needed a different way to engage with music. And Julie Drew had posted a prompt for new, like intermediate advanced works. And I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And I really liked it. And I, like Adrian, just figured it out. Randall Standridge was starting his own publishing company about the same time. And so we connected, and he has been a great mentor for me, just helping me grow. And then because my degrees are in music ed and I can't go back and do another master's, I have learned a lot by just connecting with individual composers. I did some lessons with Jody Blackshaw, and she's incredible. Cool. And the only hard thing about working with her is that Australia is a wonky time zone situation. Yes. But I learned a lot from her, and turns out composers are really nice, and I've yet to be turned down when I write to people and ask nerdy questions. So I've been really grateful just learning from other composers.
I love that you both have had somebody in the composing world to help guide you and pick their brains. It says a lot about composers. And, when I started teaching, it was 1992. and composers were so far removed, and it might have had something to do with, we didn't really use the internet yet, but kudos to Jody and Brian for helping you both. That's awesome. What was your first piece, Adrian, that was published, and how did it happen?
So that started with my middle school band director putting me in touch with Brian Balmages. That started there. She sent it to him, and then it went from there. So the piece was Contraption. That was it's grade 4.5 from 2018. That's well, it's still available. We sent it to him. We met at his office up in Towson, at Towson University, and we just talked about it, made some changes, and then from there we moved forward with that. Before going through that process, I'm not sure if I realized just how much goes into everything from the even just finishing the piece. I think I took like 2 months from the time we met to the time I had sent the final version to him. So it was just me tweaking things in my mind, me thinking, oh, what about this? Do I want mezzo forte or mezzo piano here? Do I want accents here? What do I want? And just all of those things across the entire 5-minute piece. So I sent him the final version, and then we do a proof. So we get proofs. We do proofreading of each of those pieces, and that took me a lot of time to just go through and make sure everything is where it needs to be, because they take our music and then they put it in their own program. And for me, I work in Sibelius, so they take the work that I've done in Sibelius and bring it into Finale. They bring it into an entirely new program, and so they have to then make sure that everything still looks correct. And then they send those files back to me for me to double check and make sure. So that takes a while to go through. Writing the catalog blurbs that you see on the website, those as well, making sure the program notes are right. And so there's just a lot of production elements that we have to do behind the scenes that are great, and they're necessary, but that just we might not always see. So there's a lot of time and effort between the time that the piece is officially done and the time that it's available. And then somewhere in between all that is the whole recording session. They mix, master, and edit all of those. So there's a lot of work that goes in back there. And then we did it again the next year. And the next year I did 3 of them. And now I do sometimes 10 in a year. So each of them takes a lot of time.
That's amazing. Do you find with the production side of things that you're still energized about the piece, and or does that part of it not appeal as much to you, Adrian?
I am energized about students and directors having music that looks great. And so I'm always energized about that. It's not always fun when I'm sitting up at 9 o'clock at night, making sure that there's no redundant accidentals or redundant dynamics, or that there's no collisions on the page. That's not always fun, but I'm always energized about the fact that musicians will be able to look at music that is as precise as possible. So I will always do that work, even though it's not always fun.
Right. Well, it's appreciated. So
Thank you.
Stuff that might not be as fun as creating, it is appreciated by us.
Yeah.
Erin, how about you? What was your first piece to be published, and how did it happen?
My first piece was Wanderlust, and it's that one that I wrote in 2020. It's about my love of traveling and how I couldn't do that. Both my parents were lifetime airline employees. And,
oh, wow.
So I had a lot of really special opportunities growing up to travel a lot. So the middle it's an overture ABA. The beginning and the end are like the excitement of traveling, and the middle is kind of like reflective, wistful is the style marking. That piece is really special because I was just kind of like, well, let's see what happens. The beginning is inspired by my dog Tucker. Tucker is a 15-year-old English pointer mix.
Oh.
And yeah, we've been together for 15 years. And even though he's very old and has arthritis and hip dysplasia, every single morning he wakes up and wiggles his butt And during the pandemic, I would wake up and be like, oh, I'm home again. And Tucker would wake up and be like, you're home again. So like, it was a really good reminder during the pandemic that there is joy. There's always something to be joyful about. So that's the piece that I sent to Randall. And we did a lot of collaboration. Adrian did a great job explaining the process. I had no idea how much after the initial creative stuff happens. It's an iceberg. It's really, I mean, it's like creative stuff, all that other stuff. And that piece, the middle section, was like originally twice as long because I had like so much like woe is me energy. And Randall like very kindly was just like, I think it's too much. So we cut that down, and now it's an ABA overture. It's one of my favorite pieces. I love talking to students about it. And I have said before, I'm like, you see that little dot on that note? I lovingly placed every single little dot on every single one of those notes. So please do them. And they're always like, oh, I never thought about it. So it's kind of cool to, be a living composer and connect that bridge for students. Like, this thing came from my brain and now it's on paper and we're talking about it. So it started with Wanderlust and Randall Standridge music, and has just continued from there.
I love the part about your dog. Pets are the best.
Mm-hmm.
That he helped inspire you. So that is incredible.
Before we go on, I want to add on to what Erin said about the just amount of time. Like for me with my self-published stuff, it's like about the iceberg, it's like 90-10. Like between the time I finish the final note, final placement of the dynamics, that's that 10%, and the rest of it is like the whole 90% of production is crazy. I'm gonna say for every piece, probably 50 to 60 hours of production.
That's intense. Wow.
Yeah.
Just to bring that to life. Have you ever, this is kind of off topic, but have you ever been in a place where maybe necessarily you weren't conducting, but you got to hear your piece? And was it everything you hoped it would be? Or have you had an experience where it just totally bombed and you're like, oh my God?
It's so important to listen to your music live. I'm very lucky because I'm a band director.
Yeah.
So I use my students as test subjects all the time. And it's great because they're super honest with me. They'll just be like, this part is boring. Okay. But also sometimes like I'll see them moving and I'm just like, okay, this is working. And sometimes, I'll realize MIDI is actually too good these days. And it's like, it sounds like it would be fine in the MIDI recording. But then when you match, especially for developing musicians, when you match their skills with like the actual mechanics, like playing softly on alto saxophone on the very lowest notes, like it sounds fine on MIDI, but like realistically, that's just not happening. So it's Frank DeCali actually just said that at a Western International Band Clinic. Somebody asked about advice for upcoming composers, and he said, listen to your music live as much as possible, because you'll start drawing connections between the things that you keep writing and how it's turning out. And then you can start getting those ideas closer and closer. So I hear Wanderlust the most. It's my most popular piece, and it sounds different every band that plays it.
Wow.
And so part of it is the band, and part of it is, reality versus ideal.
That's very true. And as a former middle school band director, I can hear that note being played on the saxophone and not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Adrian, how about you? What have you experienced when you've heard your music live?
It varies widely, but you always learn something. And so, yeah, as I've heard things, I just make tweaks to maybe balance or dynamics or the way that I write something, and just learned what I think works for my music and what doesn't. So I think it's one of the greatest tools to hear your music played back to you. You're going to learn so quickly what works and what doesn't. And as you hear more of that played back to you, the less surprising it is, the more you do it. Like, so I mean, I've been getting those demo recordings from Alfred and FJH since 2018. So now when I hear them back, some of them are like, I'm like, wow, that was really great. Some of them like it's what I expected. Um, I'm not nearly as surprised anymore by what I hear from those, because I know what it's going to sound like before I send it. So the more I write, the more I know I can predict what things are going to sound like.
Great. I know we all have different backgrounds and different experiences, but I'm curious as to what obstacles maybe you both have encountered or encountered on your own. If you don't mind sharing those. And so I think people who have the idea of what it's like to be a composer or want to do that sometimes don't realize some of the things as far as challenges that you have to go through. Erin, you want to go first?
Sure. The first thing I want to say is, if you think that you might want to be a composer, you should do it. Just do it. The only thing that you absolutely need is an idea, and everything else is figure outable. That has been my experience. You just need an idea. Like, I wrote Wanderlust in Muse Score, and it was probably the worst editing anyone ever had to do, because I was just figuring it out. I would say an obstacle for me has been that I don't play piano as well as I would like. I'm working on a funk tune for concert band right now, and my funk piano skills are lackluster. And so it's just taking me a long time to get that feeling that I want. I really like writing music that makes people feel something, and so I'm trying to be really intentional, and it's just really pushing my growth edges. So that's been an obstacle for me. I think finding time to write is an obstacle for like most every composer, unless it's your full-time job. But I think if you have an idea and there's something that you want to say, don't wait, just do it. MuseScore is free, and it'll harm you none to just try.
That's very true. How about you, Adrian?
I think that patience is such an important thing in this. We sometimes are might be writing for a year and think, why is this not working? Well, it's not that it's not working, you haven't given it the time. For me, I think it was 10 years from the day that I started writing until the day I received my first royalty check from a piece of music that I'd written. So if that takes 10 years, if you're a year in and you're thinking, oh, maybe this isn't for me, they haven't given it the time. And the other part of the time there is just giving yourself the time for your voice to develop. And that's part of why I'm in grad school too, is just, okay, so I've done undergrad, I've grown to a certain point. I wonder how else my voice can grow. So just giving your voice the space and time to grow and not judging it, just letting it be what it is. I think we get caught up in needing to be the best at this, and it's like, you don't need to be the best. You need to be the best you. That's what's going to make you the best. And you can only be the best you if you give yourself the comfort, space, time, and encouragement to do that.
Adrian, those are very, very wise words. And it's a great lesson that you've already learned. If somebody wants to get published, what do you recommend, or what process should they go through? Adrian or Erin, either one.
It is easier than I thought. I will say that, to do the process. I had a conversation with two band director friends early in the pandemic, and I was like, how does music go from my computer to JW Pepper? Like, here, how does that happen? And so I Googled it. And places like Alfred and Murphy Music Press and, you know, all the publishers, on their website, there's a submission button, or an email address, and you send it in. You want to make sure that it looks really, really good, um, and that you have a decent recording, whether it's MIDI or live is fine, and that you say something about it. Don't just send it. You know, say what it's about, why you think it's meaningful, who the market is, you know. And then what can be really helpful is if you make connections with people in that field. If you go to conferences, if you go to Midwest, go introduce yourself and be a person and not just another submission. And they're like I said, composers are really nice. And so just connect with other composers and see if they have any suggestions for where to publish. Different pieces work better for different places, and just depending on what their catalog is geared towards. And something that I think is really important to also know is that not all music you write needs to be published. Sometimes music is for you, and sometimes it's for other people and you. But you know, you have to decide, how much am I willing to change to kind of put it in that marketable box? And if it starts to feel prickly, the amount of changes that might need to happen, maybe it's not the right one to publish. And so I just think it's important to note that we shouldn't just write music to publish it, but you know, the process is also important.
That's a really good point. Adrian, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's really great. Those are the basics there to keep in mind as you're doing this. To continue to touch on that, like making sure it looks really good is important, because that's like you showing up to an interview. What your score looks like is what you are essentially wearing to the interview. And I think that and if your score doesn't look great, they get hundreds and thousands of submissions every single year. Not that the score has to look great in order for it to be great music. That's certainly not the case. But if it looks great, that's going to give them that they're going to want to look at it, and it's going to allow them to look further into the music. And if your score looks just like when a band walks on stage,
Yeah.
if a band walks on stage and they're really, really well behaved, and they look like they're ready, and their posture is great, and they look like they're engaged even before they play the first note, I'm very, very interested to hear what they're going to sound like. And I think the same thing's true for the way that we look at the scores that we send in. So, I mean, it doesn't, and by no means are we saying it has to be perfect, but just as good as you think you can make it before sending it in, so that they're not distracted by mistakes and things on the page, but they're just simply able to see your music and your sound. So that's something. And yeah, like Erin said, about make sure the piece has something to say, make sure you have something to say. If you have something to say, you can do anything. So having the piece have something to say, that's what people are really looking for. Yes, they want the piece to look great. But if the piece looks great and it has something to say, people's emotions are not going to be engaged in wanting to listen to that music and wanting to play it with their students. Ultimately, we're trying to inspire students here. And of course, we want the music to have appropriate pedagogical concepts as well, but we're really trying to inspire students. And the music that's going to inspire students is something that has something impactful to say. So send it. There's nothing the only thing, the worst you're going to hear is no. And if it gets in the hands of the right person and it's the right time and you're at the right place in your compositional development, at some point, somebody is going to say yes. And even if they don't, you can still self-publish.
That's very true. Have either of you had to deal with rejection over a piece?
Sure. Yeah. You know, publishers can only take so many like grade twos. Like, say their catalog is going to be I'm going to make this up. So say it's going to be 10 new pieces are going to be released. Well, they can't have 9 grade 2 works. And so if like 12 people submitted grade 2 works, they're not all going to get in. So sometimes it's not even about whether your piece was good enough or not. It's just not the right year or the right catalog. And so then you can send it to a different publisher. Or you can work with Murphy Music Press, who is more of a distributor. You can retain the copyright and distribute through Murphy Music, and then also through yourself if you self-publish on your website. So yeah, I've had plenty of things not get in. I would say like just as many not get in as get in. And it's just about maybe that piece wasn't ready. Randall always tells me like it's like cookies. Sometimes they're just not done yet. So
I like that.
yeah, so sometimes the piece isn't ready yet. Sometimes the catalog's just full. And sometimes it's just the wrong catalog for the right piece.
Yep. Adrian, how about you? Have you had to deal with hearing no?
It's more so for me, I want to say that most of my publishing experiences just start right with my relationship with Brian.
Yeah.
And so we have just worked through pieces. There have been pieces that he's like, I'm not sure if this is a good fit. And here's what I think it needs. And so and then he's like, well, I don't care if we walk away from this with something that's published or not. I just care that you've grown as a composer. So we will work through things, and usually we wind up putting those out. But yeah, working through that's important. And as Erin was saying about the publisher's catalog and what they're looking for, right. So I want to say a publisher might put out 6 to 7 grade 2s, for example, and that's like the biggest category, right? They need, maybe they can't have all the same kind of piece. They're not going to put out 7 lyrical pieces in 1 year. They're not going to put out 7 overtures in 1 year. So maybe they have, so let's get to 7 somehow. Maybe they have a march, maybe they have 2 overtures, maybe they have a holiday theme piece, maybe they have some kind of cinematic piece, and maybe 2 lyrical, or maybe a lyrical piece and a waltz. I don't know. It doesn't really matter what it is, but you can see right there, there's only 1 or 2 spots in every catalog for every kind of piece. So the openings are, so you can have the right kind of piece, but if somebody else's piece is already in there, or it was that piece that someone else submitted was just an absolute perfect fit for that catalog, there's just not space, and it's not personal. There just wasn't space. And every catalog, I like to think of that every catalog has a different personality. When I put a piece through one publisher versus another, even then versus my own self-published, I always find that they come out with, whether it's a grade 1 or a grade 4, they always come out through that publisher with a similar type of personality and a similar type of aesthetic. And that's due to the editing process with whatever editor you're working with. That's due to the engraving process and the way the music looks. And it's due to the recording. They all kind of, if you look at different publishers, you'll kind of notice what publishers look and sound like what, even though they're different composers and different styles all over the place. But I think it's good to be able to have diversity in terms of what I sound like through a lot of different lenses.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely makes you more marketable. And, thinking about all that you have to go through that process, I'm thinking does it blow your minds that you have multiple compositions out?
For me, it's wild. I was never trying to be a composer. After Wanderlust, I thought, do I do this now? Is this just a thing I did this one time? And I turns out I really like it. And it's kind of like there's the excitement of writing the thing, and then there's the editing. It's kind of like beginning band. Okay. So
yeah.
Band, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in band, I'm playing an instrument, it's so shiny. Oh, it's hard. I have to practice this, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, oh, that first concert is coming, that first work is published, oh, now I heard a band play it, now I get to talk to kids about it, now I have an email that somebody in Nebraska is playing my music, now somebody wants to do a Zoom clinic with me, now I heard my piece at a conference, now I get to talk about my dog's butt wiggle on a stage. That actually happened to me at Midwest. So
That's cool.
All the grind is worth it. The grind is worth it. And it is for me, it's just an absolute delight to call myself a composer now and to keep learning and growing. And yeah, it's worth it.
Very cool. How about you, Adrian?
It's worth it to me, too, to go through that whole process. Can't think of too much that we haven't said earlier already. Anything particular you wanted me to touch on there?
I don't like the last thing I know that Guardians came out, and it's written so well for beginners or lower grade band. It doesn't sound like a beginner band or lower grade band piece. And with you not having the teaching experience, it just blows my mind that you are composing things that sound so much harder than they are.
Yeah, well, that's well, thank you. That's it's just listening to the music that my mentors have written. It's I did, even though I haven't taught, I did student teach both elementary school and high school. And hearing the things that they're working on and just trying to come up with things that students are going to find engaging, but may not be super, super technically challenging. And then also, and then knowing the difference, and then something also could be very, very technically challenging or relatively technically challenging, but easier to play. And then something could be simple, but very difficult. I have a piece, Tectonic Plates, that's a grade 3.5, and there's not a 16th note in the piece. It's not just about the notes and that, but and then I think I have pieces that are even more energetic than that at an easier level, and someone might listen to that and go, well, this sounds like a grade 2 or grade 3, and it's like, well, it was just the mechanics I used to write it, to make it something that's fun to play for the students and relatively easy, but also engaging. And then the melody has to be cool and the harmonies have to be cool, but not too challenging. And so it's about finding all that right balance. And yeah, Guardians is a grade half, but it's a difficult grade half. But without those special moments of maybe one new note or one new rhythm, I don't think it would be quite as interesting. Sure. So it's about finding finding that perfect balance between artistry and pedagogy without sacrificing either one.
I think writing for the young musicians, the youngest ones, is actually really difficult, because it has to sound epic.
Yes,
it has to be epic. It has to make them want to pick up that instrument to get through the oh no. I have done several of Adrian's works with my high school band. They're developing ensemble because I have a wide range of abilities. But like you said, he does a really great job making it accessible, but still exciting. Those can go together.
You both fill an important niche with younger bands and producing music that they want to play. It just makes it so much easier for directors who are trying to keep their kids motivated. You're so right about that, Erin. So it's appreciated that you both have spent the time trying to make those works for bands to reach those things. Do you have anything particular that you would like to tell directors when they're playing your pieces? Is there anything we should be doing better, or do we ever miss the boat on something when we're doing your pieces?
I'll say this, and the answer to that is no. The director's doing a great job. The and I notice this when I do my recordings. I've done mine at the University of Maryland, not the publisher ones, but my self-published ones. I get a group of students at University of Maryland together, and we spend 3.5 hours just diving in and recording those pieces. Um, and I'm proud of those recordings. At the same time, the piece doesn't always have to go like that. The piece can go a lot of different ways. And so for me, what those recordings are for me is just a way to show not only directors but students, but to show students how the piece could go. There's some moments in some recordings I've done where there's not a ritardando written in, but I did one anyway. And even though I didn't plan it, I did it anyway because it makes musical sense and it added something to the sound of the recording. And it was just a musical option that was there. I cannot speak for everyone else right here at all, but for me, I am flexible with the things that I've written on the page in regards to even tempo. Sometimes, if you're doing a piece of mine and I've written it at quarter equals 144, but you really are the students are really enjoying the energy of it at faster, closer to 152. Do that. If there's a spot where there's a lot of energy building up and it's right before a launch into a fast section, and I haven't written a ritardando, but everyone wants to do it, and you're like, this would be really cool. I would say go for it. If everything that I had envisioned was on the page, that would mean that you wouldn't be able to see anything because there'd be an accent here and a line here. It would just be everything all over the page. And I also want to leave room for the musicians and directors to make music within my music. I find the more I write, the less I actually write in regards to notes to the conductor, and the less that I specifically write on the score. And I may even leave some articulations out that I might otherwise put in, just because I want to give the musicians space to make music and teach young musicians how to interpret things that are on the page to become a musician. Right? When we're reading a sentence, we put inflection on that sentence, but there's nothing written when we're reading a book. There's nothing written in the book that tells you how to enunciate something. Yes, there's an exclamation point, but it doesn't tell you how much to exclaim. You make that decision. And so I think we need to leave room for musicians and for students and directors to be able to make their own decisions. I'm a big advocate of that.
Those were excellent comparisons, and your openness is really cool. Erin, do you feel that same way?
I do. I think as long as there's a reason. So for me, there has to be a musical reason why we're doing things. And I support that. I know as a conductor, so I conduct 2 adult community bands, and they often have their own opinions about how something should go. And sometimes we'll go with it. And sometimes I say, I really think we need to respect the composer's integrity, like they've written this in the program notes. And so I think it's a balance. When I put my composer hat on, I would say the only thing that I really, I think makes a difference is if there's a fast piece, trying to go at least that fast changes the character of the piece.
Yeah.
So like Space Races is a new overture that I released this spring, or I guess this fall. And it lights up a different way if you take it at 144. If you, a lot of fast band music defaults to quarter equals 120. And it's still a cool piece. If you can't play it musically at 144, please don't. But if your band can do it, go for it, because it really illuminates the piece in a different way. If your band can do it faster, cool. If you want to, add things in it to make it more dramatic, like the ritardando, I think that's great. And also, if you want to write to me and ask me about it or share your cool ideas with me, I would love that. I am always delighted. So I'm on the West Coast, and so often by the time that I wake up, I have emails waiting because other people have already started work. And so it's like a really magical experience to just like wake up to good news. But yeah, so I think not only should directors, be the musicians they are and make musical choices, they should feel free to reach out to composers. I don't know any composers that are like, please don't talk to me about my music.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask both of you, if you were, especially after COVID, and we all know how to Zoom now, if you're both willing to speak with students, or, it's a lot more accessible for us to do that these days. Adrian, are you open to speaking with students and directors about the music when they're working on it?
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I do it. That's part of the thing that keeps me going, even when I'm writing. When I have a piece due in a week and I just have to keep going, I'm like, I'm looking forward to hearing the students' inspirations for wanting to play this piece, and I need to kind of make that happen. Obviously, I prefer the in-person to the virtual, but we need to do virtual. We need to do virtual, and I'm still happy to do that. So yeah, I love chatting with and meeting with students and directors about the music they're working on. It's always fun.
Cool. Do you both have the ability, or I don't know if you have the time right now, but do you accept commissions for your work?
Yeah, I'm definitely actively accepting commissions right now.
Okay.
I've got commissions through this summer, and I'll start planning for the fall pretty soon here. I really enjoy commissions. I'm doing commissions 5 and 6 right now, and with each one, it's like a super special, unique adventure with that ensemble. For me, because my background is in education and I'm a teacher at heart, even when I'm supposed to be being a composer or a conductor, like I'm always being a teacher. I think I might approach commissions a little different than other composers. I really want to work with the students. I really want to find out what they're excited about, but also where they need to grow. And so we can do both. We can stretch ourselves to be honest about our musicality and our musicianship, and also what we're fired up about. I usually meet with students and I ask them, when you get to do a commission, it's a really special process. Like, this will be tailor-made for you. And also, the whole world can see it. So what do you want to say? This is a chance for you to say something, like Adrian was saying, like your music should say something. So that this concert band funk thing that I'm doing is about embracing difference. I'm working with a middle school, a local school here, who has a very diverse student body, and there are a lot of different cultures represented. And so they were just talking about how, particularly in band, everybody can be themselves and embrace their differences, and how that's a really big value in their school community, but that it can be a little vulnerable. And so it starts slow with some humming, and then it just like gets into this like full-blown shout chorus. So I think commissioning is really cool because you can help students find their voices, and it will be their piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think especially after COVID, kids have a lot of profound things to say about
They do.
our society, about our world, and so that's very cool. How did the commissions work for you, Adrian?
I'd say they're similar in that I want them to be special for every group. And if they don't, I mean, I'm happy to do whatever I want to, but sometimes I'll follow up with them and be like, is there anything specific that you're looking for here that we can kind of make this special for your group? And I mean, and sometimes I have all the time in the world. Sometimes I'm able to accept something because I know that I'm going to publish something of that level in the upcoming year, and so we'll work on it in that way. So like right now, I have some commissions that are done, and we just recorded them last week. and they'll perform them very, very soon. So they will then be able to have the professional recording when nobody else has it and nobody else can play it. And I think that's really cool as well. It's always nice when folks reach out sooner rather than later, because that gives us a chance to plan and gives us a chance to think about how we're going to place that in a catalog later, or a publisher's catalog or our own catalog, and also to just have a chance to think more on the piece. Some pieces I can write and just sit down today and do it. Other pieces I need more time to really think about. So it as much as it seems like a year might be a long time, a year goes by pretty quickly, especially when it comes to a project. So for me, anything less than a year is a pretty tight timeline, especially when there's other projects to juggle in there, and other responsibilities that aren't just composing, right? And then there's the editing, and there's everything going on. So it's always a really fun thing to do, and I always love working with folks on that. And we always sometimes I'll actually make a different version for publication versus what we give to them, because for the commission, I'm focused solely on the commission, and we will do whatever we need to do to get that there. And then I don't know, maybe a publisher series adds another trombone part for that. Like, say it's a grade 3 and I sent it to them with only 2 trombone parts because that's what they wanted. But when we go to publish it, we might add a trombone part to fit the series that the publisher wants to put that in. And those things are usually no problem. So because one is for an individual group and the other is kind of for mass distribution.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to see how that happens.
You guys have some really good things that you've brought up about commissioning that I wouldn't have thought to include. So I'm glad you both have talked about that. Do you have, Adrian, a favorite grade level that you like to write for, or is it everything?
I like everything, and I like all instrument mediums. I like to mix it up as much as I can. If I do too many things too often, it won't, I'll get bored of that. So I like to bounce from a grade half to a grade 4 to a grade 5 and all over everywhere to just keep me engaged. And then writing a string orchestra work. I just did that a couple months ago, and that was really, really fun to dive into and make that happen. So I feel like my general sweet spot of things tends to lie around grades 2 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's like my area that I've written the most stuff in, but I do like to I do all of them.
Excellent. Erin, how about you? Do you have a preference?
It depends what the idea is, like when the ideas like come to my head or a commission comes to me. It's like really important to match the right musical idea to the right grade level. And so I think I can get really pumped about anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be releasing a new grade 1 with Randall called Joan of Arc, and it's my favorite. It's such a banger. There's like 9 percussion parts, and it just like slaps so hard. There's oh my gosh, brake drum and anvil, and they like go back and forth like middle age,
Yeah.
blacksmith stuff. And I never thought I would be so pumped about a grade 1 piece, but I was just like, I had this little melody come to me, and I just sat down and like knocked it out. And then it's been really fun to like fine tune it and like go deeper into like the harmony. And yeah, so I think I can get pumped about anything. I've got I keep a like voice recording list of musical nuggets, and
Yeah.
I think I've got a lot of them that are like in that beginning range. I want to write one called Band Room Blues, talking about the woes of band when your reed breaks, or when the trombone empties their spit valve on your foot, or somehow you only have one mallet because clearly it's been stolen. Nobody take that idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pumped about beginning band music right now, and then I've got some projects coming up next year that will take me into more advanced music that I'm really excited about. I'm going to be doing my first consortium,
Yay.
so look forward to that. But yeah, really, it's about the idea, not about the grade level.
That's very cool. I'm totally pumped about Joan of Arc, so
Yeah.
that's going to be awesome. I wanted you to have the chance to tell directors, students, whomever you want to address, what is one thing you would like for either directors or students or any of them to know about you as a composer? And Adrian, if you want to go first.
Sure. For me, the most important thing is that students have an experience with the music, that they learn and grow from that. And to me, that plays a big role in what I'm writing and how I'm doing it. That's why a lot of times when I write a grade 2, it actually winds up being a grade 2.5 or a grade 3, because I'm like, all right, here, let's sit down and work on this grade 2. And then I'm like, but I want to put this idea in it and that idea, and I want the clarinet line to interact with the alto sax line and horn line in this way and that way. And to paying attention to the details is important. It's important for me, and I want to make it important for the directors and the students as well. And I just want them to grow through that experience of playing the music. It's never just a grade 1 or just a grade half. It's always like, okay, sure, it happens to be more accessible in a technical manner, but let's still use this. This is still real music, and let's play it as well as we can, and also and with as much emotional and musical depth as possible. Right, Moonlight Bliss for me is a grade 1 that I have, and I think you can make it a grade 3 or grade 4 if you wanted to.
Mhm.
There's so much musicality we can do with stretching phrases. There's so much we can do with blend and balance in that piece, that it's really not about the grade level and whether it's easy or whether it's difficult. It's just, let's make the best music we can with the music we have in front of us.
I love that you said it's real music. It doesn't matter if it's a grade 1, it's real music. And that's what the students and the director can do with it. Erin, what would you like folks to know about you?
I would like them to know that two things that are really important to me as a composer. One, that my music makes people feel things. That's the point of music, even when it's grade half. And that it's important to me that everybody is a meaningful part. As a director, um, a lot there's a lot of middle school band music that shows no love to the low brass, or the percussion parts are like, there's one really interesting part and then the rest are like ting.
Yes.
So it's important to me that everybody has a meaningful part, and I think that, so all we're trying to do in band is get everybody to care about the same thing at the same time. And that is like hard enough in a middle school band room. And so I want to write music that helps create buy-in and a sense of importance. There are no small parts. That's actually true.
Very cool. Erin has come out with a book with Megan Wagner, and I got my copy at Midwest, but you can get it through GIA. Erin, do you want to say anything about the book that you've come out with?
Sure. Women in Wind Band is a book for professional development, for educators, new and veteran. And it is written from the experience of women, but it is for everybody. It's in 3 parts. The beginning part is essays on what are we doing and why are we doing it. I wrote a chapter on authenticity, competition versus collaboration, and redefining success. What is success and who are we doing it for, kind of thing. Part 2, there are 19 interviews from women all over the country, US and Canada, different ages, different identities, different years of experience, and different grade levels taught. And we asked them all the same 5 questions. And it's pretty striking to see some trends that are showing up about their experiences being women in the field. And then the third part is a series of calls to actions. And so each call to action addresses, why is there a need for a call in this domain? And what are some like actionable tasks that we can do to make our field more inclusive and more authentic for everybody? So it's things like conducting marching band, repertoire selection, classroom climate, pre-service teaching, mentorship, social media, professional organizations. And we are just really lucky that we've had so many amazing women contribute to this book. Each call to action is written by an expert in that domain. So I think it's a cool opportunity for us to be in community with band directors all over the country, because I think there's a lot of shared experiences in the book for people of all genders. And I would be delighted to chat about it anytime if anyone has picked it up and feels inspired to do so.
Fabulous. It's a tremendous book, so thank you. Both of you fill such a huge space in the band world as far as composition, and I thank you so much for your time tonight. Your insights are so valuable, and I hope this will encourage, at least in North Carolina, more directors to play your music and use it in honor bands and getting things on the MPA list. So thank you both for all you do. I have the highest respect for you and your work, and it's been a pleasure this evening.
Thank you so much for having us.
Tonight, we were not able to have Haley Woodrow with us, but she took the time to make a great video about herself as a composer and her pieces. And I would highly encourage you to watch that. And I will be putting the link for that with the link for this recording. So please take the time to look at it. If there is something that moves you with the works of these different composers and you think it would be great for the MPA list, please submit your form, which is a Google form online. You can find it on the NCBA website under new music, because we definitely need more women and more people of color on our list, and to show our students that people that look like them can be composers, can be conductors, can be directors. So I highly encourage you to watch her video. Thank you so much for joining us.